Yeah. Boxing Aficionados. What's up? What's going on? Hey, yo, check this out. So, as the year winds down, I decided to maybe take a look at some of the fundamental maladies that's detracting from the sport of boxing, right? And one of them, a very important one, is the credibility of the writers entrusted to report on him, right? You know who they are, right? They're the Kevin Iolis, the Keith Heidig, Jake Donovan, Michael Benson, Chris Mannix, Mike Coppinger, etc., right? So the issue with them is the credibility part, right? The writers entrusted to give the boxing fan information. Again, the boxing writers entrusted to give the boxing fan information on the sport that they follow have a credibility problem. Now, let me walk that back a little bit, because I mentioned a lot of names, and honestly, some of them shouldn't have been mentioned there. So please disregard Jake Donovan. I apologize. Please disregard Michael Benson. I apologize. There are some that do what they're supposed to do. Michael Montero. There's some of them that in Spanish se le dice, hay que sacarle la comida aparte, which means basically you got to treat them differently because they do their job, which is supposed to be fair and impartial and objective reporting on the happenings of the day, or what's in our sport that we all love, right? So I thought about that a little bit because there's some controversy surrounding the Gervonta Davis pay-per-view numbers versus Isaac Cruz. You know, Gervonta Davis has been sold to us as a superstar. I mean, the whole line of marketing surrounding Gervonta Davis is that he's so big that he doesn't need anyone to make a fight. He doesn't need to fight anyone in particular to elevate his status in the sport. That's the marketing angle that TMT, Floyd Mayweather, Lloyd Ellerby, Stephen Espinoza, right? That's the tact that they've taken to market Gervonta Davis. So when you take that tact, right, then you have to show and prove, right? And when you have to show and prove that there is a viable reason why you don't have to fight Lomachenko, and you don't have to fight Teofimo Lopez, and you don't have to fight Devin Haney, you don't have to fight anybody, to be a superstar, then, people gonna start taking a look at exactly what you're basing your claim on, right? So, with that, it takes us to his last pay-per-view numbers against Isaac Cruz. Curiously, Showtime, Steven Espinosa, Ellaby, and Floyd Mayweather failed to inform the boxing fan about how well it did, right? It's been weeks. None of them have put out an official number. None of them has even talked about it. For weeks, they didn't even talk about it. For 2 weeks, they didn't even talk about it, right? Then along comes this guy, right? Rick Glazer. This nomad. This renegade. The renegade. Rick Glazer. Says simply, he sold 50,000 pay-per-view buys. And all hell broke loose, right? All of a sudden, it was, he's a hater. That's wrong. The people who don't like Tank ran with that. The boxing community, the fans, the participants, which is a very small community. It's a niche sport. All went bonkers on a simple tweet or simple Facebook post made by Rick Glazer. The curious thing is that Leonard Ellaby then responds. He has to take control of the situation, has to spin this, has to address Rick Glazer, right? This is Leonard Ellaby, right? CEO, I believe, of TMT, the money team, who's taking time out of what should be a busy schedule. Takes his time to address Rick Glazer because Rick Glazer hit a nerve and exposed Gervonta Davis for the non-attraction that he really is. Now, this really shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone that fight flopped. And truth be told, the man's never cracked 200,000 buys. The man's putting up the same numbers that Terrence Crawford is putting up. 100,000, 150, that's what he's putting up. But they elevated to like 200,000. It's elevated. And when I say they, I mean these boxing writers. The Mike Coppingers of the world, the Kevin Iolis of the world, the Keith Idings of the world, right? They present these numbers as if they're groundbreaking. They put a positive spin on less than 200,000, on less than 200,000 pay-per-view buys. Now, call me crazy, but I come from the era, right, where basically 350,000 was acceptable. 500,000 was a success. Pay-per-view buys. Over that, you get into your 700,000, more successful. When you start getting into your 900,000, into your millions, it's a runaway success, right? And then the 2 million pay-per-view buys are reserved for really, really superstar status, right? So, less than 200,000 being presented to me by Mike Coppinger, Kevin Ioli, Keith Iding, Chris Mannix, right? less than 200,000 or 200,000 being presented to me as if it's some sort of achievement is laughable. And therein lies the credibility, because they don't do the same thing for Crawford. You know, Crawford sells 150,000 pay-per-view buys against Khan. It's a flop. Top Rank doesn't know what it's doing, right? He sells 190,000 pay-per-view buys against Porter, and it's a flop. What a failure. Everything that Crawford did. He sells 50,000 against what's his name? The original guy, his first pay-per-view, but that's neither near nor there. It's a flop, rightfully so. You know, the thing is that they don't call it the same way. It's never fair, it's never balanced. It's all about the spin. Gervonta Jeep Davis sells 200,000, less than 200,000, 150 to 200,000. It's like, yeah, he's really, you know, he's really got a following. You know, he's the star in the making. They support the nonsense that Team TMT is giving us, giving the boxing fan, and thereby supporting their reasons for not making fights. Instead of calling it as it is and maybe lighting a match under their feet to get it cracking and push him along. I mean, the man is 27 years old. He's going to be 28. This is not a young, you know, this is not a spring chicken. So, you know, getting back to the topic at hand, Rick Glazer comes in and drops 50,000, turns the boxing world on its ears, and everybody has to address what that man tweets, what that man posts on Facebook. And I say to myself, why? Right? Well, because when you ask Rick Glazer where he got the numbers, he'll happily explain to you. He has a formula. Right? He has a formula to know, and he calls certain people or whatever. He explained it to me once, but I didn't get it, you know. But there is a viable formula. Meanwhile, the key fighters and Mike Coppingers just pull numbers out their ass. And lately, they've been more careful about not exaggerating the numbers, because the numbers are so low that no one is going to believe you if you say 250,000. Like, you know that they're not going to believe you if you say over 200,000. So you say 200,000, or a little less than 200,000, and then you just put a positive spin in the wording. And it's sad. It's sad. Because if the boxing fan can't count on the boxing writer to give them the right information, then what you're going to have is a bunch of confused people out there thinking that somebody ducked, that somebody, you know, isn't worth it, that this guy's a superstar, that they should pay for it. You know, it's out and out wrong. It's out and out wrong. And it seems to only happen one way, with the PBC fights, especially Mike Coppinger's situation. Every single event that they do, he supports. He even supported, and it's written, you can look it up, sign me up for some Andy Ruiz versus Areola pay-per-view. He didn't say one negative word about it. But Terence Crawford fights Khan, he's got a lot to say. Terence Crawford fights Brooke on pay-per-view. He's got a lot to say about how negative it is. You got to call it both ways, man. You understand? And the thing that interests me the most about this is how Rick Glazer, in one tweet, gets the support of the boxing fans across the board. So I made a poll on Twitter. Got about 300 votes. It's a nice chunk of change, right? It's a good, sizable quantity to really gauge, what the poll was about, which was whose numbers regarding pay-per-views would you most find credible, basically. Whether it be Rick Glazer or Mike Coppingers. And to the surprise of no one, especially not me, because I knew exactly what the poll would show. Because I have faith that people are more intelligent than these writers think that they are, right? That these writers who consistently insult our intelligence think that we are, right? It showed 70 to 30%. 70% of the people who voted found Rick Glazer more credible than Mike Coppinger. 70%. This is Rick Glazer, who has no platform except a Twitter account and a Facebook account. Rick Glazer with one tweet gets a Leonard Ellerby to react, to have to address his assertions. You know why? Because the truth carries a power onto itself that cannot be duplicated by anyone or anything but the truth. The truth has a different ring to it. When somebody says the truth to you, it makes sense. It is logical. When somebody says the truth to you, you don't question it. You understand? Can you dig it, baby? It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. This is Next Level Boxing Talk, motherfuckers.